Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Before I start, I just want to say thank you for all the support you've been showing me. It really means more than you think. Today's story. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. It feels like something straight out of a movie. Not the kind you forget, the kind that stays in your head. My name is Ryan. I grew up as an only child, just me and my parents, in a life that looked normal from the outside. I went to a high school about 15 or 20 minutes away, and back then I didn't care much about school, the future, or anything beyond the next day. Most of my time was spent outside with my two closest friends, Nathan and Mark. We wasted hours together, joked about everything, and lived like nothing serious could ever touch us. That changed because of one promise. My father told me that if I passed my second year, we would travel abroad as a family. To anyone else, maybe that sounds small. To me, it was huge. I had never experienced anything like that before. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I actually had a reason to try. When I told Nathan and Mark, I expected them to laugh or make fun of me, but they didn't. They backed me completely. We started going out less, paying attention in class, trying harder than we ever had before. It wasn't like we suddenly became perfect students, but something shifted. Slowly, I started improving, and people noticed. One day in class, I answered a question without hesitation. The teacher looked surprised, then praised me in front of everyone, saying I could become something if I kept going like that. It stuck with me because for the first time, I didn't feel stuck. I felt like I was actually moving somewhere. But while things were getting better for me, something darker was already sitting in the background. One day, during a conversation in class about our futures, Nathan mentioned what his father did for work. Someone behind us laughed and made a comment about his dad going through trash. Nathan heard it. I heard it too. Neither of us reacted right away, but I could feel it sitting between us. I leaned toward him and told him not to let anyone talk about him like that. At the time, I thought it was just an insult. I had no idea that was only the surface of what he was dealing with. As exams got closer, I started spending more time at home. I barely saw Nathan and Mark for a while, but one Friday I decided to go check on Nathan. I went to his house, knocked on the door, and his father opened it. Something about him immediately felt wrong. His face was cold, his voice sharp, and even the way he looked at me made me uncomfortable. He told me Nathan wasn't home. I left, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. So instead of going home, I walked around the neighborhood. That's when I saw a group of guys surrounding someone. At first, I couldn't make out who it was. Then I got closer and saw Nathan on the ground. They were beating him badly, kicking him, punching him, throwing dirt in his face. I didn't think. I ran straight at them. Two of them took off immediately, but three stayed. One of them was Ethan, the same guy from school. I grabbed him by the shirt, slammed him down, and started hitting him. Everything after that blurred together. One of his friends rushed in, and I hit him too. Then I grabbed a bicycle lying nearby and smashed Ethan into it. I still remember the sound, the blood, the shouting. It all happened in seconds. I pulled Nathan up and got him out of there before anything got worse. The moment I got home, the adrenaline wore off and panic took its place. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely think. I locked myself in my room and kept replaying everything in my head, trying to understand how fast things had spiraled. Then I heard a car outside. I looked through the window and saw a police car. My chest tightened instantly. I slipped out of my room and hid on the roof while the officers knocked on the door. My mother answered. I heard them ask for me, then tell her to send my father to the station. I stayed there in silence, not moving, barely breathing. When my father came home that night, I heard him asking where I was. I heard my mother say she didn't know. Then he left for the station, and I stayed hidden, listening to everything from above like a coward. That night, I made one of the stupidest decisions of my life. Instead of facing it, I ran. I left the house, covered my face, and sat in a nearby park until dawn, thinking about whether I had seriously hurt Ethan and whether I had just ruined my life. By morning, I couldn't keep running. So, I went home. The moment I stepped inside, I saw my father asleep by the door, waiting for me. That image hit harder than any punishment could have. When he woke up and saw me, he stood up immediately, slapped me once, and told me to go to my room. The slap itself didn't hurt. What hurt was what it meant. He followed me in and said that at 8 in the morning, I was going with him to the police station and I was going to tell the truth exactly as it happened. The next day, we went together. Ethan was there with his father. His face was swollen and stitched up, and he claimed I attacked him for no reason. When it was my turn, I told the truth. I explained what they had done to Nathan and what happened after that. Before anyone else could react, Ethan's father slapped him in front of everyone and started shouting at him, saying he raised him better than that. He apologized to my father. The entire situation flipped in seconds. The officer closed the case. On the way home, my father looked at me and said something I never forgot. He told me he gives me everything and all he asks in return is respect and that I don't bring trouble into the house. That sentence stayed with me. I promised him it would be the last problem I ever caused. A few days later, I finished my exams, and despite everything that had happened, my father kept his promise. We traveled abroad for 2 weeks. For a little while, everything felt light again, like life had finally calmed down. I didn't know it was only getting started. When we came back, I thought things would go back to normal. I figured I'd find Nathan and Mark, joke around, and pick up where we left off. But the moment I started looking for them, I felt something strange. I went to Nathan's house first. No answer. Then Mark's. He wasn't there either. As I turned back toward home, I saw both of them riding toward me on bicycles. The second they saw me, they lit up. Mark started telling me that everyone in the area had gotten into cycling. Big rides, long distances, groups from different neighborhoods joining together, dozens of people moving as one. Nathan told me I had to get a bike too. At first I brushed it off, but I knew I couldn't ask my father for money right after the trip. Nathan thought about it for a second, then told me his brother had a bike that needed fixing. We took it to a repair shop, fixed the flat tire, and just like that I was in. For the next few weeks, we rode everywhere. Different neighborhoods, long roads, no destination, just the feeling of moving forward. It was freedom. It felt like the kind of simple happiness that makes you think bad things are behind you. Then Mark told me about a massive Friday ride. People from different areas would all gather, and it was going to be huge. I asked my father for permission. He agreed. That Friday, what started as maybe 15 riders became 30, then 50, then more. By the time we reached another neighborhood, it felt like the entire street was moving with us. That's when I saw Ethan. For a second, everything around me slowed down. I nudged Mark and asked if it was really him. He looked, then nodded. Nathan saw him too. I took a breath and told both of them to ignore him. I said we weren't there for problems and we were just finishing the ride. For a few minutes it worked. Then I heard my name. I turned and there he was, staring at me, holding a glass bottle with a smile that instantly told me this wasn't over. He stepped closer and said he had been waiting for this. Before I could react, he smashed the bottle against my bike. Glass exploded everywhere. He held the jagged, broken piece in his hand and pointed it toward me. He said, "You embarrassed me in front of my dad. Now it's your turn." Then he came at me. He was swinging wildly, not trying to scare me, trying to hurt me. People started yelling. Some moved in, some backed away. And in the middle of all that chaos, I felt a burning line rip across my face. I froze for a second. Then the blood started pouring. I touched my face and saw it on my hand. The cut was deep, terrifyingly close to my eye. I shouted at him that it was over, that he needed to stop, but he kept trying to get at me until Nathan and Mark threw themselves in and pulled him back. We didn't stay another second. Nathan and Mark helped me onto my bike and we rushed home as fast as we could. Every second of that ride felt longer than it should have. The pain, the blood, the thought of how close that glass came to my eye, it was all I could think about. The moment I got home, my father saw my face and everything changed. He stepped toward me and asked what happened. I tried to downplay it, but the moment he looked properly, he told me to get in the car. We went straight to the clinic. They cleaned the wound, picked out tiny pieces of glass, and stitched it. I remember sitting there, feeling every movement, every pull of the thread, realizing how stupid all of it was. Something that should have ended had come back worse. When we left, my father called Ethan's father again. This time, there was no shouting. He simply explained what happened. Ethan's father answered with one sentence: he would deal with him. That was it. On the drive back, my father told me enough was enough. Ethan had gotten his revenge. I was hurt. It ended there. No more problems. I agreed. At home, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at the stitches running across my face. I knew right away this wasn't going to disappear. It was going to leave a mark. Days passed, then weeks. The stitches came out, and the doctor gave me treatment to help reduce the scar. He said it would fade, but never fully. When school started again, everyone kept asking about it. I lied every time. Car accident, bike fall, anything but the truth. As for Ethan, he disappeared. No one knew where he went. But I had a strong feeling his father made sure he stayed out of sight. Then life went quiet again, too quiet. One evening, just before sunset, the doorbell rang. I opened the door expecting something ordinary. It was Nathan, but he looked destroyed. His clothes were torn, his face was bruised, and the way he was breathing made it look like even standing there was taking everything he had left. He looked at me and said, "Ryan, please, let me in." I didn't ask questions. I moved aside immediately. He walked in slowly and dropped onto the couch like his body had given up. I brought him water, juice, anything I could think of. When I sat in front of him and asked what happened, he didn't answer right away. He stared at the bottle in his hands like he was trying to hold himself together. Then he said very quietly that he couldn't stay at his house anymore. I asked him what he meant. He told me there was something he had never fully told me, but Mark knew. The moment he said that, I remembered all the strange moments around his house, the tension, the way Mark once avoided even knocking on the door. Then Nathan started talking. He said his father wasn't normal. When he got angry, he didn't stop. He didn't see his son in front of him, or his wife, or anyone. That day, Nathan said his father had called for him. He hadn't heard him the first time, so his sister came and told him. He went to him and explained that he hadn't heard. That was enough. His father started shouting, grabbed a wooden plank, and began beating him with it. He hit his back, his arms dragged him across the floor, screamed things Nathan couldn't even repeat, then threw him outside and told him not to come back. I asked if this had happened before. Nathan said more times than he could count. Then I asked the question I didn't want the answer to. Had he ever done the same to his mother? Nathan looked at me and said, "He destroyed her." That sentence stayed in the room like smoke. Then Nathan broke down completely. He told me he was tired of his father, tired of living like that, tired of everything. Then he said something that scared me more than anything else in that moment. Sometimes he wished he was dead. I shut that down immediately and told him never to say that again. A few moments later, my mother came in after hearing him crying. I explained everything in a low voice. She didn't hesitate. She told him he was staying with us that night. She comforted him, fed him, spoke to him like he mattered, but Nathan barely reacted. He just kept saying his father wasn't a real father anymore. The next morning, my father joined us for breakfast and looked at Nathan for a long moment. Then he asked a direct question. "Does your father use drugs?" Nathan froze, then quietly said yes. My dad nodded slowly and said that explained everything. Then he said something I didn't expect. "Don't worry, I'll handle this." Nathan looked confused, but my father didn't explain. From that day on, Nathan stayed with us. One day became a week became nearly 3. He came to school with me, came home with me, and avoided going back completely. At one point, he told me that if he stayed away long enough, his father would stop speaking to him altogether, and maybe that would make things easier. I didn't like that idea, but I wanted him safe, so I kept quiet. Time passed. We finished high school, then came university. We both got accepted into the same one nearly 200 kilometers away. Mark stayed behind, but Nathan and I left together. We rented a small apartment and started over. For the first time in his life, Nathan was free. And for a while, it really felt that way. Those first few months were peaceful in a way I hadn't known before. No shouting, no fear, no violence, just classes, late night studying, cheap meals, long walks, and trying to build a life that actually felt ours. Nathan changed a lot. He laughed more, talked more, studied seriously. He finally looked like someone healing. My father helped more than I expected too. When Nathan couldn't cover his share of the rent, my dad stepped in without ever making him feel small for it. Nathan respected him deeply for that, even if he didn't always say it. 2 years passed like that, 2 full years, and in all that time, Nathan never went home. I kept telling him he should at least see his mother. At first, he refused every time, but eventually, after weeks of me pushing him, he gave in. He said he would go for 3 days and come back. I still remember that moment because something inside me tightened when he said it. I didn't know why. I just felt it. He packed a small bag, looked at me before leaving, and said, 3 days, I'll be back. That was the last normal time I ever saw him. The first day passed quietly, then the second. By the 3rd day, I started calling him. His phone was off. I told myself he was busy, maybe with family, maybe clearing his head. Then came the 4th day, then the 5th, and he still wasn't back. That's when a bad feeling became something heavier. Something was wrong. I had exams at the time, so I couldn't leave immediately, but I couldn't focus on anything either. Every hour made the silence feel worse. Every possible explanation ran through my head, and none of them felt right. The moment my exams ended, I went straight back to our hometown. The first place I went was Nathan's house. I knocked. The door opened. His father stood there, cold as ever, and asked what I wanted. I asked if Nathan was there. The second I said his name, he slammed the door in my face. Then from inside, I heard him shout, "Don't ever say his name here again." My stomach dropped. I left immediately and went straight to Mark's house. The moment he opened the door, I asked where Nathan was. He looked confused and said he thought Nathan had already gone back to me. I told him he never returned. His face changed instantly. That's when we both knew this wasn't normal. Nathan wasn't staying longer. Nathan was missing. Days passed with no call, no message, no sign of him. I couldn't sit still. I started going back to his neighborhood, watching his house from a distance, hoping to see anything that made sense. Nothing. Then I asked Mark if there was anywhere else Nathan might have gone. He thought about it for a second, then mentioned an old stable area that belonged to Nathan's father, a place Nathan used to go sometimes. That was enough for me. We drove out there. The place looked dead. No animals, no sound, no sign of life, just a lonely stretch of dirt and silence that somehow felt heavier the closer we got. We walked toward the gate and found a rope tied around it. Mark touched it, and it snapped immediately. That's when it hit me that no one had used this place in a long time. We climbed over and went inside. Every step felt wrong. Then I saw it, a dark stain on the ground. I walked closer. Blood, dried, spread across the dirt. Impossible to explain away. Mark came up behind me and asked what it was, but I didn't answer because I already knew it wasn't something small. A few steps later, I found something else near the wall, half covered in dirt, a torn piece of cloth. I picked it up and stared at it for a second before my chest tightened. I knew it. It was Nathan's. Mark went quiet. I dropped the cloth and looked around again, and suddenly the entire place felt different. Every corner looked wrong. Every shadow felt like it was hiding something. Then I noticed the ground near the back. It didn't look natural. It looked disturbed, uneven, like it had been dug up and covered again. I walked toward it slowly. Mark told me to stop, but I couldn't. I stood over that patch of dirt with my hands shaking because deep down I already knew what it meant. Then I dropped to my knees and started digging with my bare hands. At first the dirt was hard, then softer. My nails tore, my hands burned, but I didn't stop. Then I hit something solid. I froze. Slowly, I brushed the dirt away. Plastic. My whole body started shaking. Mark told me not to open it, but I couldn't stop. I pulled at the edge and the dirt started falling away. Then the smell hit me. Strong, rotten, unmistakable. Mark turned away. I kept going. Then I saw it. A hand. Human. Everything inside me went numb. Nathan hadn't disappeared. Nathan was here. We ran straight back to the car and drove to the police station without saying a word. I told them everything from the night Nathan showed up at my house beaten and desperate, all the way to what we had just found at the stable. The moment I mentioned the location, everything changed. Police moved fast. Cars, officers, equipment. We went back with them, and this time they secured the place and started digging properly. I stood there watching the entire thing, unable to look away even though every second felt unbearable. Then they uncovered the body fully, wrapped in plastic, buried shallow, as if whoever did it hadn't even tried that hard to hide it. One of the officers told me to step back, but I already knew. It was Nathan. My legs felt weak. My head started spinning. Mark couldn't even look. Then came the question none of us really needed to ask anymore. Who would do this? The answer had already been sitting in my head for days. His father. Police went straight to his house. We followed. This time, when they knocked, the door opened, and he stood there looking calm. Too calm. They told him to come with them, and he didn't resist at all. At the station, he denied everything at first, but the evidence was there. The stable, the blood, the body, the cloth. And eventually, he broke. He admitted it. He said they argued. He said Nathan had disrespected him. He said he lost control. Lost control, that's what he called it. He beat his own son until he stopped moving. Then he wrapped him, took him to that place, and buried him like he was nothing. I sat there listening, and I felt something inside me shut down. Anger, disgust, shock, and guilt. Because the last time I saw Nathan, he trusted me. He looked at me and said he'd be back in 3 days, and I let him go. At the funeral, all I could think about was the night he stood at my door bruised and shaking, asking for help. I let him stay. I helped him survive. And then one day I let him walk back into the place that had always been trying to destroy him. That thought never left me. What if I had stopped him? Would he still be here? I don't know. I'll never know. But I learned something from all of it, something that stayed with me long after the funeral ended. Not every danger looks dangerous. Sometimes it looks like a house, sometimes it looks like a parent, sometimes it hides in the place people trust the most. And the worst part is that by the time you finally understand what it really is, it's already too late. After that, I changed, completely. I stopped believing that every problem passes, some don't, some wait, and some end everything. So I made myself one promise, and I've never forgotten it. If someone comes to me asking for help, I don't let them go back so easily, no matter what, because sometimes a second chance is the last chance they'll ever get.